There it goes. Now it's live. It didn't give us a countdown. Just
we're
previewed and then
live.
kicked in.
Yeah.
All right.
All sorts of
So we
crazy.
got a
CCSK Law.
Let me make
Here
sure
tonight
we're
with
coming
tips
through.
from the bar. We're here at Danny O's in Chesterton.
Chesterton.
Oh,
So
right.
my wife and I have a long-standing joke. We were driving through Kentucky or Tennessee one time, and
Were you going to the fair?
we started
Going to.
we started seeing all these towns with these really long, weird names. So they started combining like shortened forms of what a town is, like Chesterton, Chestertown, right? Chesterton.
Oh yeah, sure.
And then they'd be like Chestertonville. So now our running joke is, so we're going to, an example would be Chestertonville Fieldburg Court. So,
Yep.
Yeah. And so she texted me earlier today and was like, yeah, have fun up in Chesterton Town Fieldburg. I will.
So we went from Billy Joel
I
to
like it.
Pitbull, I think. Is this Pitbull?
Mr. Worldwide. Worldwide. Mr. Worldwide.
See, yep. They have a birthday party going on, and so
And
right
Pitbull's
now,
here?
yes.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yep. I thought I saw him. Either that or it was just maybe I was just confused with an actual
Another
pitbull.
hairless person.
Yeah, hairless pitbull.
Yeah.
But we are CCSK Law live here. Said, man, we
Nice day out.
it is a beautiful day to be doing this.
I would say
We're
one
sitting
thing
outside.
that's unique about this spot where they're at is that this, even though they have the canopies up here, the umbrellas, I guess I could say the right word.
Okay.
The sun doesn't really hit this spot. Not
No.
in the evening.
Perfect. Like,
No,
There's a whole
big
bunch of
trees
trees
back
back
there.
here that doesn't
Yeah.
block it out. So
oh man, yeah.
just a nice little spot to come sit outside and
So we get the bright
have a drink, have
sunshine.
some food. I will say their food is pretty amazing. For what we've
I haven't
so
had
far.
yet. I gotta
Oh,
try
this
something
you
yet.
got to try the
Buffalo, Buffalo
Buffalo
perch. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean they took they fried this buffalo this perch up.
Our
in this
executive
buffalo
producers
crisp.
checked in and we sound good.
Oh, good,
Awesome.
fantastic. Thank
So-
you, Lindsay.
All right.
We like it. We like it.
You
Yeah,
got to
so
try
I
this
can't
thing.
reach
Don.
that
You
far.
got some sauce right there. There you go.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
It's really impressive.
Mhm.
I had never really thought about that.
I will
to
never
have
eat
that.
perch without this buffalo crisp to it. I just now I
Is
can't
it
go back.
like battered in? Is it just
It's
like
battered.
it's like tossed like a buffalo wild wing? Is that what we?
I
or no,
guess. Yeah.
something like
Buffalo
that.
wing, not wild wing. Buffalo.
Yeah, it's
wings.
just the
I guess
batter.
it's just
the batter
wings,
has
right?
the buffalo sauce in it, and it's just great.
Yeah.
Really good.
This is
And I've heard they
superb.
got good pizza here, but we haven't tried that yet.
That's right.
Somebody's
Wednesdays,
trying to take over here. You can
half
have some.
price pizza. Apparently,
Wednesday.
the joint
Tomorrow.
gets packed.
Yeah.
With people just flocking in to try their pizza because apparently it's really good and it's half price on Wednesdays. So, motion to move this and do it again tomorrow. Yeah, so we'll
Tips
do
from
two
the
of
bar
them. Tips-
redo.
The redo.
Whatever you want to do, go for it. Can't promise I'll be here. I got client
So
meetings tomorrow afternoon.
You're outside.
It's just like half an hour of
It's a
me
beauty.
eating pizza
There you go.
on video. That's
So-
it.
Yeah. So here we are. So
We made it in.
you all seem to.
Yeah, I'll take another cruise. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. What are you having
Sponsor.
tonight?
I have a Guinness, classic Guinness, not quite local.
Oh, I told you what I was having. I was trying to hide it. Not like anybody wouldn't have been able to
Yeah,
figure
right.
it
So, of course. And
out.
what
They're
did you end
not
up
sponsoring
getting?
this.
A blue moon.
Blue Moon. I saw the oranges floating. I had a feeling.
Yeah.
Yep.
Love some Blue Moon.
Didn't have the Oberon,
Oh,
Sure about that.
so
They were
that is
offering,
my summer go-to.
but they offer way more
you
than
very
just
much.
like bar food and such. Like I said, this perch here is amazing. But they
Phenomenal.
have ribs, they have steak, right? There's shrimp
Did
everywhere.
you guys eat the steak already? Is that what you're saying?
No,
No,
this
there's
is
some ribs.
Those are some ribs. I'm about to
Yeah.
try my piece here in a bit. Yeah, this
Well, I
is
just
the
heard you
sample
mention
platter.
steak, and then I didn't see steak, and
They have steak, man. I didn't
There's a
not get
sample
the steak
platter.
right
There
there.
was only like
Sample platter
two
did not
big
come
chunks
with
of steak, so we had to. No, I wish I would
That's what
have tried
happens
that.
when I get here
I have
last.
not tried their
um,
steak yet.
Yeah,
there may be an audible for next week. It sounds like that. Are
Yep.
we- is that-
maybe, maybe so.
I don't know.
Lindsay was making a reference to the fact you're preparing for your next week's show.
Oh, next week. Oh wait, she's talking about my accents.
Right.
We won't.
Oh,
we
here
won't
we
bring
go
it up
now.
anymore. No, we won't go down that road right
we're
now.
Calling it. We're calling it.
You
We're
want
not there.
it? You want
Okay.
me to?
Next week.
I
No,
will.
So
it's
before
next
we
week.
went on the
No,
air, you guys were
Next week.
talking about the right to try, and you had been talking about it, and I walked up to the conversation after the fact. And so I was sorting through a number of different things regarding a right to try, which would have also included a legal thought, which would have been the right to a trial, like
Yeah.
the right to actually try something.
Oh,
You were talking about something else entirely.
yeah.
Completely.
Right. I think that one's covered under the Constitution, access to the courts. But it could probably be specified a lot more.
Well, but not everything has the capacity to have a trial. But if it does, then you have a right to bring it to trial.
But what point does that balance tip where you begin to infringe on people's right to be heard, to have their day in court, versus, saying, well, these frivolous claims are overbearing, are already, backed up courts.
That is your
Stake.
The
Oh,
frivolous.
Frivolous.
If it's frivolous, if there's no real question, there you go.
Yeah. Well, there's
But-
been, yeah.
But frivolous doesn't mean that it stops somebody from getting to court to determine that it's frivolous. I mean,
Right.
you may still end
Oh,
up in trial and then be found to be frivolous.
Yeah.
Or it gets dismissed before you get there.
Sure.
But you can start the process.
Summary
There's that whole
judgment gets out.
pre-trial process.
Yeah.
I was just contacting the client because we're involved in a matter that appears to be headed to court,
Mhm.
that I cannot make a justification for why. And I can't explain to the client that despite the fact that it doesn't make sense that we are going to be brought to court,
Again, someone's
There's
taking
nothing-
you to court.
right.
They've made this claim that's just made.
Right.
No basis.
it's completely out of left field.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an attorney that's fed it along, and so we replied and we responded, and with a basically making the case for why it doesn't need to be going down this road. It's unnecessarily expensive, unnecessarily time consuming, and you're airing stuff that people don't want out in the ether,
Because
in the
court
public
is
square, as we
public.
say.
You file public those documents. Anybody can go and get documents from a court case.
Right.
You become public when you start filing these cases, and
And they'll be there for
Mhm.
and with the internet now and everything being e-filed,
that's right.
even e-stored. I mean, it's going to be there, and it may come up. Someone may just search your name, and this stuff comes up.
Yeah.
So I can't.
I just want to interrupt and say that I have a halo.
Do you?
I do.
Really?
Just
Oh, a
in
little
terms of
bit.
that I have a halo. I did. The sun's going away.
Wait, it was the Beyonce that sang Halo.
I
I'm
did.
sorry.
Yes,
Who's
I
saying Halo?
believe
Beyonce?
Beyonce had a halo. Yes.
But one of my favorite bands who did covers is Red Umbrella. I will pull up Red Umbrella's cover of Halo. But anyway, so as much as there's a right to try, there's you don't have a right to, it appears, stop someone else from bringing you to court, even though you cannot make.
Yep.
You can make a dozen cases for why it shouldn't be in court.
Right.
Not the least of which is just a family squabble,
Right.
and the person's going to push it. And what makes it worse is they don't feel like they're responsible for attorney's fees, so she's not having to pay an attorney to go through this whole process because he believes he's going to get paid by the other side. So there's no
Well,
sort
that
of.
his loss.
Well, I don't know.
Even so.
It's so this is
Mhm.
this is what I was dealing with just before I came here, is trying to, how do you tell somebody logic doesn't prevail in this situation,
Yeah.
and you're going to end up in court unless you can settle it between
The,
the
parties.
group of you
Yeah.
outside of court. Take the attorneys out, just talk to each other.
Which oftentimes is the best result. There are so many times where someone comes to me, and I will give this advice.
Said
I will
video's
say,
getting fuzzy.
talk with the other side without bringing in the attorneys yet, because attorneys make things contentious. They make it more,
Well, sure. I mean,
argumentative.
and that's
People put
by
up their
design,
defenses
because
with
they're going
attorneys.
to try to get the best result for their client, so they're going to push it a little bit more. Where
Mhm.
two parties might be able to look at each other and say, we don't need to get into that technicality. I just want to do this and this and be done with it. So they might be able to negotiate between themselves a little bit.
I'm just trying to
more
make
fruitfully.
an effort to just talk it out. It goes a long way, and it can save you tons of money.
You can-
Otherwise, there's those court cases, and we all know them, where it goes on for a decade, and the only people who win in that are the attorneys because they're the only ones getting paid.
Yep, right.
But I guarantee the attorneys are frustrated with it too. They're just getting paid to be frustrated while the clients are paying.
We're
Sure,
very
clients-
pixelated.
Yes,
We may take a break and reset our thing,
Oh,
because otherwise I think we're going to lose it anyway.
this is our theme for today.
It's coming.
Losing it?
Pixelation.
Oh,
Losing it.
isn't that a
It's a
movie?
little bit foggy, but it's not. It's off and on.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to adjust to just what I can, but
Right.
it doesn't appear to be getting. There's a better wireless signal.
Okay.
My computer tried to pick up a different one. So,
Lindsay says it's getting better.
all right. Well, we'll fight it out. We'll see.
We'll see what happens. If we get dropped, we'll be back.
Right.
Yeah.
But in
heads
the
up.
meantime, so the actual right to try that you all were talking about.
That's interesting. That's I really like this idea because you always hear about people that get in this situation and can't do anything about it. So the actual right to try law that we're talking about is in regards to medical situations. Let's say, for example, somebody has cancer and they've tried everything possible. The right to try law allows them the ability to try investigative stages,
Investigational.
investigational
But
stages.
experimental.
It's experimental. Medicines for their issue that have not been approved by the FDA. And it reduces, it's got some different language in there that reduces liability on the doctors and the pharmacists and the medical or the
manufacturers,
manufacturers
sponsors,
and all
then
these
as well as
people
the
involved with
physicians
it.
and providers.
It helps limit the liability on it because it is in that stage, but it gives somebody that's like, there's no other options. It's like, okay, you're just going to sit and die. That, man, they can then go ahead and at least take a try at it.
All traditional options have been attempted,
Exhausted,
and they do not qualify for a clinical trial. At that point, they can go to their provider or physician, and their provider or physician can recommend, yes, you should move forward with this. The drug itself is experimental, but it has passed what's called phase 1 of the clinical trials.
Right.
It means that it's at least gone through one stage of trials before they start testing it on
And
people.
normally, I believe that most trials there's 3 stages.
Yes,
And
3
once
phases.
they get past the third stage, that's when it ends up becoming available to the public. So this is actually pretty early in the process that they're allowed to try some of these more experimental type things.
One of the ways that you put that, the list of side effects when it comes on
Yeah.
the... I like the way you said that.
I said, they should explain it to people like, look, you ever watch a TV commercial for some drug and it says may cause, and then there's this long list of things that seem to be worse than the actual disease they're preventing.
Yeah, that's always confusing to me.
They need to look at people and say, okay, well, this experiment that we're doing with you and you taking this, we're trying to find out what those are. So that's why you're taking this, because we're going to find
It's
out what that
possible
is.
you might be on that list.
You might get something that we don't know about,
Mhm.
and then we'll be able to put that on the list in the future. So who knows? Maybe somebody that's really at the end of the rope will have a sense of feeling like, well, at least I'm going to try to help out.
Yep. Now, you can still be declined from it. Your physician or provider may still say that, no, you are not right for this. We don't want you to move forward with it.
And
But it gives the possibility, because before they didn't even have that option.
but that law also protects the physician from that.
Yeah.
So if the physician says, no, I'm not going to authorize this, and the person dies while waiting on trying to get another doctor to authorize it, they can't go back into the doctor and say, hey, you prevented something that could have saved. So it limits the liability there.
Is the liability protected if the doctor goes along with it? Okay, so he's
Yeah.
protected on both sides.
On
Protect
both
on both
sides,
sides.
whether they allow it or
Which
deny
is
it.
really a good way to do it because it gives them the opportunity to make just a straight strategic call based on that individual situation, not potential liability.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I really like it. And
Right.
now you were reading some stuff. There's some people that are against this, and for a while this has been kind of against this. What's the deal with that?
So
'Cause I don't understand it.
there's kind of 2 arguments that I read that were against it. One is saying there's no evidence to support that this actually helps. Well, to that I might say, well, we haven't
How
done
do
it
you
yet,
know?
so there won't be any evidence. Yeah,
Right,
we
right.
can't have any evidence.
I
Yeah,
mean, it's a true statement.
it's true. There
But
is no
it's
evidence because
necessarily-
we haven't done
necessarily
anything
true.
to have the evidence. It
Right.
hasn't been permitted for it. But the second one is people believe that it's going to undermine the FDA's expertise of putting into. It's basically going around the back door of the FDA.
And so that's because you're saying this was what Obama administration and the Bush administration both had been against this.
There were four former FDA commissioners who
Okay.
have come out from Obama administration and the Bush administration saying that they are against this.
Okay.
And again, it finds a way. While the manufacturer or sponsor still has to submit these results to the FDA, and the FDA will put a summary once a year on their website of what's going on with this drug. You're still looking at at post phase 1, but before
Yeah.
phase 3.
But see, I think
Study.
that this is actually now the manufacturers don't have to agree to do this.
So they can keep the door closed.
They can
They
keep the door
can.
closed.
Yes.
And I think they might.
Well, they kind of control the whole process. If you're not going to let your drug be out there,
But think about it. If you've got an experimental drug and the FDA says, okay, the government says you can do this, but the FDA says people that are not on your list of when they do like a testing, they got very specific criteria. Now they're just saying anybody that has this disease, if it doesn't fit the criteria for the experimental stage, they can still potentially get access if they want to. But that information is get back to the FDA. What if that affects the outcome of the drug because this person doesn't have the right criteria and they need to be more specific? Well, then is that going to affect the potential drug's outcome long term for everybody else?
Well, the flip of that could be, hey, we found a whole other group we're going to help.
No, I agree.
So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think
that's why it's such
a
coin toss. The
50-50
question
proposition
is,
across the board.
Will the manufacturers want to take that chance? I mean, at stage one, they don't have as much money. I mean, most people don't realize to get a medication approved through the FDA, by the time you get through all the stages, it's millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. It's ridiculously expensive. So they're going through with all that and trying to get to that point where they can get this approved and start making some of their money back by charging for it. Well, at this point, they get to this stage where, okay, stage one, we've got some money into this, so they're already foreseeing that return later on. Well, man, if we got to give this random people this,
right?
I can't. It's a risk if they're going to have to calculate whether that risk is.
No, it is.
That's a business decision on that.
It's a business decision risk, absolutely. It's interesting.
I was saying that a couple things that I could see that are really driving this thing forward, because there was a huge sweeping, like 40 states that jumped on this wagon, and but some, we have in a crisis with drug addiction,
right?
As well as which includes medication that is prescribed by doctors. You also have healthcare costs increasing. So finding alternative methods of helping people is something that I think is helping drive this thing forward, right?
Yeah.
Can we find alternatives? Maybe some other things out there that could really help people.
Yeah.
Again, this is not extremely wide in scope. These are people who are out of options.
Right.
For out of options completely.
Yeah.
All
Okay,
right. Thank you. Where they're out of options, and their doctor has agreed that they should, and they've sat before a review board, and the review board's explained the possibilities of experimental drugs and how they can impact you. And this person, while they would expect to reasonably so be in a vulnerable position.
Sure.
Honestly, without any other
What's our other option?
Well, yeah, but it is the weight on the other side. Do they truly understand that this could cause them more suffering and eventually cause their demise?
Here's what I find interesting.
Can they understand?
Because you hear and this is just, you see stuff on TV and you see stories and stuff of people that get to that stage, and then all of a sudden there's some treatment in another country that's not approved by the FDA that they want to try to go get. This wouldn't include those because unless they're already in process in the U.S. with the FDA, if they're not in process, this wouldn't include that type of treatment being brought into the U.S.
Well, but those don't have the same restrictions anyway. So if you can get the capacity to get out of the country and get into another country, you can do those anyway.
Right.
I mean, like you hear about people going to Mexico, or there was a guy I know that went to India because they had a treatment for a particular disease that he was otherwise terminal here, and they had some options there. And then he found like there's some atmospheric things that would change how it helped. So like went to another country where just the environmental structure was different.
Yeah.
So there's just so many factors. I think sometimes we run quickly to pharmaceutical solutions, and it's not necessarily the only thing, but we kind of pigeonholed ourselves into thinking, well, I got to go to the doctor and get a prescription. There's becoming more conversation about holistics and things like that.
Every night I'm watching TV and I see something come on, and the list of stuff is worse than the actual problem. It's like, oh, you have rough headaches. Okay, well, here, take this medicine, and could cause heart attack, stroke, death.
Right.
It's like, really?
Well, there's a commercial running now for a medical grade
How we doing?
omega-3.
Pretty well.
Yeah, we're doing.
Thanks.
Misty, our host.
Yes.
But it was a medical grade omega-3 vitamin that was prescription based. You had to have a prescription to get. It's like, okay, now I don't know how clean it was. I don't know what it was.
Why would the cleaner one be less or require prescription?
It's medicinal quality. I mean, like when you do medicinal quality anything, it is going to be at another level of again, controls, testing, and something you can say. Plus, there's a whole lot of those vitamins that say, without an FDA endorsement or this has not been. Whereas this is now going to say, hey, the FDA has allowed us to actually give you a prescription for this thing.
Right.
And you're going to state some specific benefit for taking that medication.
Right.
Yeah.
And everybody talks about omega-3. It's like, oh, it's heart healthy. It's this. But we can't tell you that it's really heart healthy.
Right.
So, yeah, I think any of that stuff that I think what this should really start the conversation is the broader thing, because again, we talk about life expectancies going on, but what are we talking about? Quality of life. I mean, I think people, so now we can throw more medications at people, but for the person who says, look, that's not the quality of life I want. I don't want that 3-page laundry list, but let me go through some process of, maybe taking my own life in a more controlled fashion.
Yeah.
That gets into another very big topic.
Right. So, but it just starts to open up both ends of the bookcase, right? So,
I think we're still a little bit of a way from that happening.
well,
What's that?
except
Lindsay recommends Costa Rica doctors.
She is not a doctor and cannot make recommendations on doctors. Just
But,
saying, do that at your own risk.
but I think, but you have states that are doing it individually.
Yeah.
So you have Oregon, you have California. I think that's passed one, or is coming online with one.
The
Maybe
right to
Washington
die
was
type
out there.
thing,
Yeah,
what they
right to
call
die.
it. Yeah.
So it's basically the capacity to say, I'm done and I want to die on my own terms.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I mean, I don't know. I've seen a couple people near the end of life in some cancer situations that were on hospice and they had very strong, lots of morphine and things like that to keep going, but it kept them comfortable. Yeah. And then reasonably, and then eventually they passed. But I guess there's those that there's certain types of cancers and illnesses that are just more painful and more dragging out. So you might have a lot higher pain, a lot longer time. I don't know.
Yeah. So I think there was a big story a couple of years ago about a gal that had been given a terminal condition and a limited amount of time. She toured the country trying to, stand up for, that right to. She lived in a state that she couldn't purposely end her own life.
Yep.
So she moved someplace to do it, but in the way she went all around the country and ended up in Oregon or Washington or California.
What you're speaking of is something more along the lines of like the co-working physician-assisted type thing, where it's less painful, it's a smoother transition versus being. I mean, a lot of people commit suicide, and there's, what they can do, throw them in jail. But I'm saying that's not what we're talking about here, because obviously some people do that that are in those medical situations like that. But we're talking about some sort of a smoother, easier process of just saying, taking time to say goodbye. And from what I've read on it, what I've seen on it, it's really a interesting process where they get the family together and everybody has a chance to talk, and the pain's reduced and that kind of thing.
Perhaps what we need here, we need to have doctors with the good tips from the bar. Get some doctors where they just, kind of explain. You get your own show. Don't call it tips from the bar. We'll call it whatever you want. Yeah. But really, like, if there was a doctor show that was like tips from the bar, where they just kind of easier to talk to get through some
Doctors
of the weeds
would
on
call
that
it
stuff.
like tips from my cousin. Well, my cousin knows a doctor that said this, so they call it something a little different.
Yeah. But I think they probably run into the same concerns of a lot of attorneys for sitting in front of cameras like, but I don't want you to take my actual advice and do something like that.
Right. Because we provide like general information here,
but everything has to be on a case-by-case basis.
Everything's got to be case-by-case basis.
But to even understand that there's options out there is probably helpful for people to be able to know to look, because again, I think the amount of time and money that when people get backed against the wall. I mean, I guess this is where the internet is at least a decent resource to start poking around and see what's there.
Right.
Then again, the Google degree is not going to replace their medical degree.
No, but now I can go talk to somebody and say, tell me why this or not.
But now the doctor can give an actual opinion on it and say, look, you should try this. You tried everything else.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Or no, you really shouldn't, because this isn't even in the ballpark of something that can help with that.
Right.
Yeah. No, that doesn't mean they can't find a doctor that would do it. But
so you were to kind of circle all the way back around. You're saying that Indiana has adopted laws that facilitate what the feds have done to fast track access to these things.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So
Indiana, along with a lot of other states.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
It's been a big movement to allow access. So just something to keep an eye on. Definitely see how it ends up working with people. Because like I said, They say there's no evidence out there that it shows to help people. Well, let's really take a look to see whether it helps or hurts and what it
Right.
ends up doing. But with the precautions that they have set in place, this is
It's not
a heavily
unfettered.
yeah,
You're not just going to run right out and walk into the pharmacy and say, "Hey, you know, I'm ready to
let's give
Give
this
me-
an experiment.
give me a week's worth of whatever." You know,
Right.
Weeks worth of whatever.
No,
throw together a cocktail for
It's
them.
like a. It is. It's very monitored. It's gonna be very monitored, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So
Well,
interesting
and I
to
would
go
still
down.
think that there's going to be doctors slow on the uptake, just because it's still a litigious society. You still have lawyers sitting out there waiting to take
Oh,
a
I'm
case,
sure there's
even if
still somebody that'll
liability
try.
doesn't appear to be
Well,
a concern. It may
the
still be.
question legally there would be: did you really exhaust everything?
Right. Right.
Because if you didn't, then that federal law wouldn't apply, and the state law wouldn't apply because you didn't hit that one element up front. You didn't
Yeah.
exhaust everything.
Well, no, but when you talk about like physician
is it?
liability, on that one though, Indiana has caps for medical malpractice.
Yeah,
So Indiana limits the amount that you can actually get from a doctor.
which is kind of silly in my.
That
I mean,
was
I get
the-
what they're trying to reduce, insurance costs for the doctors, but
and allow to attract
Well,
more doctors
yeah.
to come to Indiana.
Well, not only that,
But-
and also just to limit the. We'll go back to frivolous. I mean, is a $40 million lawsuit something that's a legitimate
maybe
concern?
because there has been times where people have got those where, you get somebody that they go in for a surgery and they come out and there was something that a doctor did that was wrong, and now they're going to be laid up in home, need a on call
Sure.
nurse 24/7 for the rest of their life, and if they're young, that could be
Mhm.
$20 million worth of costs and expenses and hospital charges and things like that ongoing. That and then they'll get 1.25 million.
Yeah.
That's it. So not that it's
Yep.
not that it's something that's always bad or always right,
Right.
but there are situations where it's unfortunate.
Yeah, because you think is 1.25 million enough in some
After the attorney
situations.
gets their cut too.
After the attorney gets their cut, to make up for the damages that you suffered because of, I mean,
And the big thing is not. I think the big thing with that is not the actual cost of the immediate damage; it's the long-term
Yeah.
financial implications of that incident.
oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
right, the upkeep from you left a glove inside of me or a sponge inside of me, and I've had to do $2 million worth of recovery because of what happened in that medical malpractice. Suddenly, that 1.25 is not very. It's drastically below.
On the other side, if it's a cost that's already incurred, it's something that they can go and do bankruptcy and get out of. But if it's future costs of ongoing health and things like that, that can get. There's not much you can do with that.
Yeah, and medical bills are one of the leading reasons for people going to file
Yes.
for bankruptcy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So.
Something that Kurt does. If you have questions about that,
Great segue, guys.
but there's also alternatives.
So yeah, there absolutely are. So there's a lot of different ways to handle things.
Mm. Yeah.
But the right to try sounds interesting, and it's actually a little bit after 7 already.
So we better kind
Is it time flies when you're having
Time flies. We're chatting
I do like
law.
this right to try. I think it makes absolutely total sense to me.
Where can people find more information on it?
Google it.
Uh,
Actually, I don't know. Isaac had pulled
We
up
can
the
post a
article,
link.
so I wasn't really sure. We can post a link to the article that we looked at,
Mhm.
the law article on it.
I thought they
Kind
did
of
a good summary. I believe it was like the Indie Star or something. But I'll post something about it. Let you guys know. So
Great.
anyway, that was this episode's. You can feel free to reach out with us with any questions about this or anything else that you got going on. You can either post here on Facebook. I point to the computer. But feel free to post here on
and
Facebook.
stop by up here. Tomorrow's half price pizza.
Oh yeah, half price.
what time's
Wednesdays,
tomorrow? Is
you
it?
know.
If we just hang out here for 5 hours, can we get half price pizza?
They're open till 3 a.m. So
I'm gonna-
maybe.
Technically, that's tomorrow, isn't
It
it?
would be.
Yeah, technically.
I don't know.
I don't know how that works.
Who knows?
You feel free to email us or call us.
Check us out at ccskaw.com.
CCSKLaw.com.
Put in your
Yeah.
questions there. We'll be happy to answer them for you.
That's right. Next week, sounds like we might be at Clancy's. We
Yes,
can make it up
back
there.
on track now.
Back
Yeah,
on track.
we-
Because
we-
we originally thought maybe that this week was, but no,
we
this is
misspoke last
Danny
week,
O's
so-
next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Danny O's
Bye.
today.
Anyway, but we'll
We'll
take
let
a
people
take a
know
look
for
at
sure.
that and we'll let you know.
Danny
Yeah.
O's in Chesterton.
Yeah.
There we
CCSK
are,
Law.
right along Calumet Avenue, just north of the post office.
Great little
So,
spot.
Oh yeah.
Great little spot.
Oh yeah.
excellent place. Thanks for having us, and have a great evening, everybody.
Thanks a
All
lot.
right. Have a good one.